Hi, Annalisa Six here with the March 2023 horoscope for the sign of Gemini. My hair is doing like I should have washed it today and blow dried it. It's just all kinds of crazy. I put some like hair oil in it and it just made it look crazier. My dog is upset with me. He wants attention. I did a horrible job with my makeup. I'm a mess today. So I apologize. At least my nails look good. Look at how good those nails look. Elaine at Queen Nails here in Yucca Valley, she kills it. All right, Gemini, we're gonna do your horoscope here. March is a crazy month. March is one of the best months of the year. I think most of us are kind of feeling that way. There's a few reasons why. There's a lot of transitional energy this month that is powerful, like we're entering a whole new phase of energy, leaving a whole cycle behind astrologically. And so, yeah, there's just a lot going on. March is kind of this like pivotal month where we get out of like an old funk and enter this like new horizon that I'm sure will come with many other problems of its own. But for now, it feels exciting. And so let's talk about how it's impacting you. So we start out March with Pisces season. So Pisces is, mutable water. It squares Gemini. So it's a little difficult, in that way where Gemini and Pisces, don't always understand each other. Pisces tends to be very fantastical and whimsical. I'm about to sneeze right now. It's been my whole day is just off. But yeah, so Pisces has been, it's very whimsical, fantastical, imaginal. It's very like ethereal out here, no boundaries. And Gemini also does not have boundaries, but it's more mathematical, it's not linear, but it's more simplified. It likes to simplify things, whereas Pisces might exaggerate things. A lot of times we forget Pisces is also ruled by the planet Jupiter. And so we tend to think of Pisces as ruled by Neptune because, in transpersonal astrology, we look at the outer planets more, but in traditional astrology, Jupiter is Pisces ruler. And so, that Jupiter expansion, no boundary energy, kind of all over the place is, common with Pisces just as much as Sagittarius. And Gemini and Virgo, being the other mutable energies that are ruled by Mercury, have more of this analytical, practical, simplified approach to things. And so, Pisces, unless, if you have Pisces in your chart and you're a Gemini, which I have a few Gemini dominant people in my life with Pisces or Pisces with Gemini, those are, you're very much both, but if you're a Gemini that lacks a lot of water, your ability to detach from your feelings, all your feelings get elevated during this time and it can feel uncomfortable. So, we're in that kind of soup when it comes to Pisces season. Mercury also enters Pisces on the 3rd. So that's in 3 days from when I'm recording this video. And where that's hitting for Gemini has to do with, I'm sorry, I totally messed up my chart that I look at. Somehow I flipped it. I got to pause this and come back. Okay, I got my chart back up. Somehow I pushed some button on this program that just made everything not the horoscope chart anymore. I think it went to just what the chart is right now today. So I had to get it back on. But obviously I'm all over the place. Okay, so where Mercury is going to be in the horoscope chart for Gemini has a lot to do with your career. So if work is something that you've been reflecting on, or you've been kind of thinking about, the way that you communicate at work, whether or not you feel like you're supported at work and how you feel things affect you, that's going to be something that's a big theme. So working on communication at work. Of course, in the sign of Pisces, we tend to automatically think about feelings, but I think Pisces is also bigger than that. There's creative energy in Pisces. So we could also feel an enhancement of creative energy in our job. And being able to articulate and communicate that is is upholded. So, or upheld. And so if you are in an artistic position at work, or you tend to enjoy the creative side of your job, that's going to be elevated for you in Pisces season. So that's great. That's really enjoyable energy. You might also feel a desire to connect to people in a deeper way over Pisces season, and with Mercury in Pisces. So Mercury is going to be in Pisces from the 3rd until the 18th. So that's going to be kind of elevating that. And then it's going to enter Aries, which the area for this chart for you, for the horoscope, it has to do with your social circle. So again, you're probably going to feel a lot more social towards the end of March once Aries season kicks in. But before we kind of talk about Aries season kicking in at the end of March, we should talk about still amount of Aries energy that we have for the first half of March, because we've got a lot. So we have Venus, Jupiter, Juno, Vesta, and Chiron all in Aries starting out in March right now. And so, you know, all of us collectively are feeling this Aries energy. I talk a lot about it with Melissa LaFera on her podcast, Energetic Principles. So I would go there if you want to kind of hear how we break it down throughout the month too. But just in terms of you, Gemini, you have all this energy hitting in the Gemini chart that has to do with your relationships with friends and groups that you associate with. And so if you're in a position where you're really craving social, you know, experiences, networking, and, you know, maybe even just kind of more spontaneity and fun in your life in a social way, this is very much elevated you throughout all of March, because you're going to have Venus, Juno, Vesta, and Chiron and Jupiter all here for the first half of March. And then once Venus and Juno move into Taurus, Mercury's going to move into Aries, the sun's going to be in Aries, Jupiter's still going to be in Aries, Chiron's still going to be in Aries. And so it's still just the whole month of March, kind of this desire to be social. So if you've been feeling introverted, or you've been feeling kind of like the Pisces energy at the end of February kind of was a lot for you, March, you might start to feel more extroverted and more like you're ready to kind of, you know, get out there. Pisces, where it's in the horoscope chart, is very work focused and creative energy. But where Aries is in the horoscope chart is very social. And so that's something that you're going to be feeling probably more so. One of the things about Aries energy is that it's very independent, it's very autonomous, and it can be a little impulsive, irrational. What else? Trying to think of it in the area of the horoscope. And I think that it's just one of those things where you could have a lot of fun with a lot of people and have a good time, and equally wear yourself out just as fast, or end up in situations that seemed like a good idea when you decided to do it. And then upon further reflection, you're like, I probably should have thought about that more. So that's something to kind of think about, because we don't have a lot of energy grounding us for the month of March. And so it's going to be really easy to kind of burn yourself out really quickly by the end of the month. So you just want to be mindful with that. Venus is going to be entering Taurus by March 17th, and Juno is going to be entering Taurus as well. And so that's going to kind of bring a little bit more of your energy back to yourself. It is a little bit more grounding than where it started out, but you know, it's in the area of the horoscope chart for you that has to do with creativity and spirituality. And so it's a good time for you with Venus and Juno and Taurus to reflect on what your relationship to that energy is to you. And, you know, even your relationship to earth energy in general, in a spiritual way. So spending time in nature, spending time, you know, kind of doing self-love rituals with your body. That's a really important thing. It can be hard for Gemini dominant people to ground. You know, you can be really prone to anxiety. And, you know, I think of the butterfly whenever I think of Gemini, just kind of like fluttering around and, you know, not really staying in one place for too long. And, Taurus is the opposite. Taurus is super grounding and really good at staying still and really good at moving slow and kind of taking the long way. And so with Venus and Juno and Taurus, even though those are signs that represent relationships and romance and love, where it's hitting in the horoscope has more to do with your subconscious and your relationship to yourself and your own spirituality. And so that might be something where like kind of getting more grounded and connected to the earth element is positive for your mental health too. That's typically what a lot of Gemini people struggle with and need to cultivate more into their lives. I've been calling that finding your anchor, like finding like what anchors you. Saturn enters Pisces on the 7th, which is huge. Like we're moving into a whole new Saturn cycle. So that's something that I talk about more in the March breakdown. So I would recommend going back and watching that. But in terms of where it's hitting for you, this has a lot to do with your career. So the next 2.5 years, you might be solidifying some plans around what you want to do with your life. They might go through some transition. Like Pisces is not a super grounded energy, but Saturn's all about commitment and making things real. And so again, this is a positive time when it comes to the work that you're doing to envision more of what it is you want to do. I think I talked a lot about this in the podcast with Melissa, but how, you know, everything that we want to do starts with an idea or a vision. And Pisces rules the imagination. So in Pisces, we can dream of these really big ideas. And in Gemini, we can analytically process how the math works of that. You know, so it's like, let's imagine, you know, when somebody was thinking about creating, I'm trying to think, like the inventor of the car, you know, it's like, obviously we started with a buggy, you know, and wheels, you know, and then the inventor of the car was like, okay, but how do we make this motorized? Like, how do we make this, you know, without a horse, or how do we drive this? I sound so stupid explaining this, but you know, it like started with this vision. Like somebody, I'm sure multiple people had this, oh yeah, wouldn't that be cool? And then somebody came and figured out the science and the math of it. So Pisces is that imagination, like, oh my God, wouldn't that be cool? I mean, another example too is like Star Trek, you know, where they had like the watches where you could talk into them and see somebody. And it was just like, oh my God, you'd see those old episodes and you'd be like, wouldn't that be crazy if we could talk to somebody on a screen that big on the wall or on our devices? And now, you know, however many years later, we're doing that now. And why? Because somebody imagined it, thought, wouldn't that be cool? And then somebody sat and figured it out. And so that's how Pisces and Gemini works together. Saturn is part of making that a reality. Saturn is rules, structure, bringing things into form. And so for where this is hitting in the Gemini chart, this has to do with your career. Like, what are you doing? You know, how can you envision the life that you want when it comes to the work that you do in the world? Can you make that happen? And, you know, getting away from, I mean, Saturn represents limits. It does. It represents rules. You know, we do have limits and rules within this reality, and Pisces doesn't like that. Pisces is like, let's break those rules, let's, you know, let's get out of the mundane and the laws. But you know, when we marry the vision, the imagination with the mundane and the laws, that's how we actually manifest things into reality. We need all 4 of those elements: earth, fire, air, water in this reality. So you can't, sure, you can close your eyes and imagine whatever you want, but you can't really bring it into form without those 4 things. So Saturn is here to kind of help you envision and bring into form those things. And as a Gemini, figuring out the math to make that happen is possible as long as you can stay focused, which is the hard part of Gemini. But Saturn is discipline. Saturn can help bring things into focus if we're able to lean into it. Taurus can also help us stick with something. So Venus and Taurus helps that. Pluto is going to enter Aquarius at the end of the month, and it's going to dance back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius. And then we're going to have Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years, starting in 2024. Big transition, big transitional energy. Where this is hitting in the horoscope over the next 20 years for Gemini, rising and sun horoscope, is the area that represents higher education, our belief systems, our philosophies on life, our relationship to travel, and how we learn about other cultures and other modalities of thought. And it's the house that's opposite of Gemini. So Gemini, again, is more simplified learning, whereas the opposite of Gemini is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is expansive. Again, it's that Jupiterian influence that influences Pisces. We're breaking out of what makes sense. We might be getting philosophical. We might be getting kind of out there. So again, like, you're kind of in this place of reevaluating what your belief systems are. And it's good for you to be open to not holding on too much to what you thought was your belief system, because essentially over the next 20 years, it's probably going to be completely different. So that's something to kind of, make note of for that horoscope. And this is probably more accurate for Gemini rising than Gemini sun. I mean, the sun horoscopes tend to be accurate for me, but we calculate horoscope charts for rising, but it's sun sign, it's rising energy is sun energy is sun. So it's relevant to both, but it's probably more accurate for the Gemini rising. So let's get into our full moon and new moon for the month of March. We have a full moon in Virgo that happens on March 7th at 16 degrees Virgo. And so the area of this for Gemini is going to be the area that represents your home. So it's really positive for you to kind of think about your relationship to how you keep your home. So Virgo is all about organization and order. It likes to keep things in order. It likes things to make sense. It likes systems of operation. It's ruled by Mercury, which is your ruler. And so it's really positive energy to kind of get things in order around your home and make your home feel like a sacred space. So, doing some kind of spring cleaning rituals is good for all of us, but especially for you when it comes to your living space. If you're also thinking about moving and clearing things out, this is also really positive time for you to do that. The next moon that we have is the new moon on March 21st, which is at 0 degrees Aries. And so again, this energy is influencing your relationship to your social circles. And so you're going to be in a position where if you're wanting to manifest new energy into your life when it comes to friends and social circles, this is a really good time to set those intentions. And again, you might feel kind of this boost of wanting to connect with people more. So that is your March 2023 horoscope. Happy astrological new year and good luck.